welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Eric Townell. My guests today represent Dance Force New York. It's New York State Dance Force. It's a consortium of presenting companies across the state doing very interesting work. Let's meet Jacqueline Davis. Jackie, welcome. And Cynthia Williams, welcome to the Spotlight today. I'm so delighted you could come in.
Thank you.
So the New York State Dance Force is quite an interesting concept. I'm sure people are unaware. Could you tell us how it got started, perhaps?
Sure. I think both Jackie and I can speak to that. Dance Force was started originally as a kind of think tank, a task force, to address problems that people saw between bringing companies in New York City, lots of dance in New York City, but how was it upstate, right? How were we, the rest of New York, functioning as far as dance? And there were three main kind of movers and shakers for the program. David White, who at that point was head of Dance Theater Workshop. Ivan Segota, who was from New York, who was a manager at Pentacle, and then Beverly Deanne, who was head of the New York State
Council on the Arts
Dance Program, who was really concerned about both the state of dance, the quality of dance, the availability of dance across the state. And they gathered together presenters, choreographers, dancers, arts managers, company directors to say, what needs to happen? How can we improve the quality and the quantity of dance throughout New York State? How can we support it? How can we fund it?
Oh, I see. So the funding comes from the New York State Council on the Arts?
The majority of the funding, certainly at the beginning, all of it. And eventually we started to find other sources of funding to supplement the Arts Council money.
So it's great. You can leverage that grant money from corporations and others?
Exactly. Corporations, other kinds of funders, private funders, local funders. So it was interesting when we first started, everybody said, so what is it that you need to be able to do things in your community? And everybody said, and I was the most strongly spoken on, I can't do anything without money. Well, it turns out money isn't what helps us the most. That is not the value to us of being members of the New York State Dance Force.
Interesting.
The actual value is the time that we spend with each other at the required meetings that twice a year we have meetings that we all attend. We share information, we share failures, we share successes, we share ideas of what else could we do. And when we leave those meetings, I think we're all so excited, energized, stimulated, ready to go back with new ideas, and we're fired up where we said, oh man, I don't think I can do this project. And then you say, oh yeah, but they made it through these problems, they did that.
And is the meeting every year in New York, or they're around the state?
Oh no, the meetings travel through various members' home communities. So last summer it was on Long Island. A couple of years before that, it was in Geneva, New York.
It's been in Brockport.
It's been in Brockport. It's been in Queens. So we try, and this summer it will be in Hudson, New York. So we try to visit each community member's home space to hear about their particular place.
Now, what kind of institutions are members of Dance Force?
Dance Force is a collection of individuals, so membership is selected and invited to particular members. I'm a faculty member at Hobart and William Smith Colleges, but should I retire or decide to move to a different part of New York State, my membership would go with me. It is not attached to my institution.
I see. So it's your work, your creative work that they're interested in.
And that's how people are selected.
I see.
They're given opportunities to submit an application, but they're very carefully vetted. And what everybody is looking for is community activists who are passionately dedicated to bringing arts activity to their communities, who have contacts outside of their own particular center, whatever that is, and who care more about the results and the process of having this project happen than just to have a show.
So it's not just seed money, it's really the collaboration that's...
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, there are how many members right now?
18.
18.
And that's been about the same since the beginning, though people come and go.
I see. And so does that mean the pot of money is split 18 ways? I should imagine. Is there a limit how many members you can have? Or?
That's why we keep the number down.
I see.
Exactly. And because we figured out that without a minimum number of dollars that you can start with, you can't do a reasonable project.
Right.
So in order to do that, we have a system now that's evolved 3 years on, 1 year off.
I see.
And in my case, I try to do projects that are at least 2 to 3 years as they evolve, so that the years are connected. But that's not necessarily what other people do.
I see.
And then the year off is, I find it helpful because, wow, we worked hard to make these projects happen.
And on average, what size is the grant award? Is it $5,000?
$6,500.
$6,500.
Yeah.
So, you know, dance is kind of expensive. There's costuming, there's facility. You can't just dance on concrete. You need a good floor and lighting and a good theater and all kinds of considerations. So no doubt you're finding other funding to make your operations work.
Yeah, that is one of the strengths of Dance Force. The members have this core seed money from New York State Council on the Arts and from our various grants that Kurt Steinzer, our director, establishes on our behalf or applies for on our behalf. But most of our projects do not cost $6,500.
I see.
Right. A recent project that I had in Geneva was $29,000 to bring a company in for 5 days to do 2 performances, to teach 3 master classes and a lecture. But I couldn't have started without the Dance Force money. I could not have even said, I'm interested, I'd love to bring this company, come talk to me.
Sounds like a brilliant project, an education element and a performance element.
Right, and each of us develop projects that work best in our communities. So for me, I like to have projects that reach college students. So we have dance majors and minors, so I do want to have classes that they can attend. But I also want to bring in the Geneva community. So this last project, we had kids from the Boys and Girls Club of Geneva. We had kids from Hillside, a developmental child agency. We had college students. We had older adults, all interested in not only the performance, but also the classes themselves. Camille did a lecture on dance as social activism, which brought out community members who were like, well, how could dance be social activism? Well, let me tell you.
And intergenerational activity.
Exactly, exactly, right. Dance is not just for the 18 to 22-year-old. Right?
Now, is it important to Dance Force to stimulate dance activity across the state, or are there specific projects that are most interesting?
The membership is decided partly based on where people are located.
Oh, I see.
Because it's considered really important. You're using state money. Of course you want to spread it to as many counties as possible.
I see.
So we cover hundreds of thousands of people who attend things in most counties around the state.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And then I imagine that you know, you could work across county lines, and that should be important too.
So we're crossing county lines whenever we try to collaborate with different members. So sometimes we can time it, which is a challenge, to have an artist who might come to both of our places.
Right, I see.
Or you'll bring somebody and they'll contact us and say, well, we're going to be in your area. Any chance of maybe a master class? And okay, we can find money to do that, but we never would have been able to bring a performance in.
And you mentioned you were at Hobart and William Smith, and where's your center of activity then?
My center of activity remains, though I'm retired from the department, at SUNY College at Brockport.
College at Brockport, okay. So it is across across counties.
Yeah.
And you could really cover a wide swath of demographic in that geographic area. So is diversity in the companies important too? Are they chosen basically on the style of dance or the ethnicity of the dance, or what's the makeup?
Makes a big difference what your community is.
I see.
However, as a group, as an organization, we certainly try to vary and not focus on, oh, this is the kind of dance that we're doing. We try to bring dances representing other cultures, representing different ages, different success rates. One of my earliest residency things was with the Jose Limon Dance Company.
All right.
We couldn't afford them now.
Very, very famous, right?
Yeah, but they came, they went out into public schools, and they ended up having such a successful residency through the dance force that they used Brockport as the site for their summer activity.
program.
This activism and cultivation of the art form is...
It's relationships. So to me, a core of what we're really interested in is we're building relationships. We're building relationships with artists who never would have gone to Geneva, New York.
Right. Or Brockport, right.
Or Brockport, or someplace way out in what they would consider hinterlands.
I see.
So the artist is brought out.
Yeah.
The community has opportunities to meet the artist, to see what they're doing, to talk to them. Sometimes they're in a residency where they do their own work. But as part of doing their own work time, for whatever the money will allow, they share in a variety of ways.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating. And, you know, I imagine that if you're just starting a dance company, you would love to know about a resource like this, both for the communication and for the funding, too.
Yes.
So how does one become a member of Dance Force? Can you apply? And, you know, is there a process for that?
Well, we just had an open call for 2 new members, which was successfully finished in this by December or January, I think. As you noted, because our resources are limited, if we had 40 members, each of us would get $1,000, which would not be very good. But we were especially looking for people who represented counties and communities that were not already served by Dance Force. We were looking for people who would broaden our diversity, who would bring new ideas to the table, and we found 2 really wonderful new people.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. That's exciting. And where are they located?
One is, that's a good question.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But
they're new. I haven't met them yet.
Okay.
But yeah, I think one is located in the not in Queens, but maybe in the Bronx, and the other might be another region of New York State that we are not currently able to set projects.
I see. But I'm sure there's a list on the website. And
Right, the website, www.danceforce, all one word, .org, O-R-G. So yes, you can see the membership, some of the projects we've done. It's
information about this new choreographers initiative is all there.
Oh, so please tell me about that. That's interesting. It's creation of new work.
Do you want to talk about this?
Sure. In partnership with New York State Council on the Arts, we've developed a new Western New York choreographers initiative where we are selecting, I don't remember how many, 2 choreographers in one of the 10 most western New York counties who will be given a $2,500 stipend, rehearsal space, professional dancers, a mentor, and consecutive time to work. That we hope they will bring back into their communities what they are doing. It does not necessarily require that they put on a show or do something, but that they work as choreographers and really begin to develop. Many of them are emerging choreographers, right? So we don't want to just fund the famous dance companies of New York City. We want to grow and emergent dance choreographers in New York State, of which there are many.
If you live in New York and you're a choreographer, you have lots of opportunity to share your work, to have people comment on your work, to visit. If you're in Western New York, there is little of that kind of opportunity.
I see.
Or if you have opportunity for feedback, well, it's with the same pool of people all the time.
Yeah.
So where's the shot of new energy, new perspective, or a higher level of experience to come in, not in an academic setting, but just purely in the professional setting?
That's right. Now, you're both dance educators, and this is a question that I think people don't understand, is how does a dancer learn what they're doing, and how does a choreographer teach it to them? You can't necessarily write it down, or is there a software that says, now move your left foot here? Or...
Actually, there is.
Oh, there is?
There is, but most people don't use it. Yeah,
Most people
No,
don't
that's
use
very specialized kind of interest area, but it's not mine.
Not yours. And so what is the procedure? I mean, it used to be that that every little girl, when my sisters, we would look at family photos, and every girl their age was in leotard and tights and dance slippers and maybe even a tutu, and they were dancing as single-digit, you know, children. Is that still the case? And is that?
Boy, it's still a big issue.
Yeah.
There are those who study dance in private studios and schools, and I mean, like Hochstein is an example of a school that runs a high-quality program. Garth Fagan Dance has a terrific education program for kids. It's fabulous. Then there are others who are in the academic setting, and they may have also come through public school dance programs, of which now there are quite a few around the country.
I see.
But those who have this kind of dance training aren't necessarily the ones who will pursue and continue into the dance training at an academic kind of setting.
Oh, I see.
There's a lot of additional components in the academic setting, right? We don't just, I shouldn't say just dance, but it's much more than dancing and learning various approaches to how do you make dance. That's what you can get in a more academic setting, especially with a variety of artists coming in.
Right.
That's one of the functions of the dance force artists, because they share a perspective that perhaps none of the current faculty have.
I see.
So there are so many approaches. When I look at the choreography coming out of, for instance, I haven't seen at your school lately. If I see what's coming out of Brockport, it's same with art departments. There's waves of styles that are really reflective of who it is who's been teaching there or who's been the guest there, because students kind of, they're attracted to it, and they want to try those things out. Well, then that wave finishes and there's a new wave. So that's part of how people learn about choreography.
And is it still quite a hands-on procedure? Is it 5, 6, 7, 8, that kind of thing?
I think each choreographer really approaches their work differently, and it depends on the style. But to think about dance education, one of the interests, I believe, of Dance Force is to realize dance is not tap, ballet, and jazz anymore. Dance is hip-hop, dance is Afro-Caribbean, dance is Jamaican, dance is stuff you don't have a name for, right? It does not have to be this sort of little girls in pink shoes and their hair's in a bun, right? That dance is for everybody. Dance is for old people, dance is for young people, dance is for people in wheelchairs, dance is for people with different disabilities. Dance is everywhere and everything, and to really keep promoting that, right? So that dance is not one thing anymore. Yeah.
So when you think about past projects, especially ones that are very representative of Dance Force, what comes to mind that you would draw people's attention to?
Talk about your projects, or?
Okay, I had a project with a woman named Monica Bill Barnes. She's singular. She's not real well known, but she has a sense of drama and humor. And she also was very successful in doing site-specific work.
I see.
So we brought her to Brockport to create a site-specific work outdoors with, I think there were 18 dancers who worked with her. It was so successful, it got reworked to go in another site on campus for a special event. And she was so good, she got an invitation to come back to Brockport the following year with her company to perform. So then people saw what her own work on her own dances looked like. That went so well. In the third year, she came back to do a work residency. And so she had the theater to use as her own time and space. She had lighting support if she needed it. She had a group of students who she had selected by audition to be her assistants, and she was choreographing on them. They had a company experience out of that.
Fantastic.
So it's hard even to describe what kind of dance that was, because
it was everything.
It was everything. All drama and costumes and fun and lively. And,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds wonderful. It must be very exciting to see seed money, like $6,500, turn into a multi-year and really inform the culture of the region.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to have some lasting influence.
Yeah.
So what kind of things have you seen over your experience with Dance Force that are the results of those programs? Are there college programs or independent dance companies that are now flourishing as a result of projects? Or what can you think of as particular long-range success stories, for instance? Does anything come to mind?
I think we've had several, and you have too. People who are at the emerging level.
Yes.
Because for one thing, that's affordable, but for another thing, they're doing interesting things.
All right, yeah.
So they come, they get a residency experience. That's helpful to them, and that gives them something to be building on.
I see. I see.
We had a company named Gallim, Gallim, which is now doing extremely well in New York. I mean, we couldn't bring them back now, but when they came, it was their first time doing any kind of residency activity. They were here in the summer. They had time just to work. They lived together in one rental house because students were not around, so they could get a house.
Sure.
And that was a creative time and a bonding time for the members of that company to really give them a boost to get started.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. When you talk about dance, you're always talking about partnering.
Yes.
Do you partner with groups that are not in the dance world, for instance, musical groups or other artistic?
We can. We would always certainly love to.
So is there a way, I mean, sure, there's dance audience and there's dance supporters and then there are dance participants. How would a company find a company to work with, a dance company to partner with, for instance, if I were a musical group?
See, this is one of the advantages of being in a city the size of Rochester, in a region like this.
I see.
Because people do have opportunities to meet each other and interact. And I see a lot of wonderful projects that take place, not just about Dance Force, but anything in this region, because people have a chance to meet each other. And they see each other's work, and they get stimulated and say, wow, you know, I'd really be interested in.
They cross paths enough.
Yeah, the Rochester Fringe is a place. I'm working with Missy Full-Smith on a project around the Rochester Fringe, how to connect presenters with performers, with artists. Her experience at the Edinburgh Fringe was really interesting to her in terms of how do they organize presenters to see new work, to go see some company that you might not have seen before.
Yeah, you're referring to the KeyBank Rochester Fringe Festival.
Yes,
They've been a guest on our In the Spotlight as well.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. So, you know, and marketing is always a challenge. It seems like funding your company to actually produce the shows is one thing, but then communicating about it can be expensive. And is that a function of Dance Force then, to be a broker for that information as well to its members?
Well, because there's a wonderful website, danceforce.org.
Danceforce.org.
And we're trying to post videos and photos and information about where do you see what to get people to go.
Oh, we have a Facebook page as well.
A Facebook page? Okay. And so there are videos of past projects on danceforce.org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be very interesting to see, I think.
Yes.
And then what about upcoming initiatives and that sort of thing? What do you know of that might be in the work next 5, 10 years out?
I'll tell you what I'm working on right now. This year, following the recent death of Tricia Brown, we had the Tricia Brown Dance Company giving us permission at Brockport in the dance program to restage one of her works. It was Set and Reset/Reset. Students did a fantastic job. They had wonderful mentoring to learn the piece. So they can present this piece for up to a year. And I hope next spring, summer, and fall, they'll be able to perform it again. But we are now in the fundraising process to be able to bring the company the following September. So that's our next step.
I see.
And if that goes well and people are still interested in pursuing Tricia Brown Dance Company, maybe we can bring the next layer of choreographers who are former company members but established on their own.
That's fascinating. And other projects that you see coming over the horizon?
Well, I've been in conversation with Camille A. Brown, the group that I brought in September, to come back and do Ink was the last piece in a trilogy that Camille did, and to come back and bring the first piece, so that we would literally kind of come full circle with her. So I'm looking for extra funding for that, but continuing that conversation and that partnership. I've also seen a company in New York City that is 2 women in wheelchairs who do the most extraordinary work. It's a piece called Descent. One of Jane Comfort's former members, Lisa Niedermeyer, is now the company manager for Alice Shepard and her piece. And watching them roll down these ramps and fly backwards and do somersaults, I would love to bring them.
Well, that sounds like a very varied and exciting future, and a very rich and rewarding past, and lots of energy behind danceforce.org and the New York State Dance Force.
The New York State Dance Force, dance activists.
Cynthia Williams, thank you so much for being in the spotlight, and Jackie Davis, thanks for coming in.